Good morning, afternoon and evening all. This is Yorkie with episode 9 of my in-depth track guide series, and this week we are taking a look at the Nurburgring from Germany. And we're going to be following the usual video format as always. We're starting off with the breakdown, followed by the hot lap, and then finally the setups at the end of the video. So let's jump straight in. Starting off with the breakdown, then we're going to gain control of the car just as we come out of the exit from the chicane just before the final corner. So taking the final corner, you kind of want to take it with as much speed as possible, try and carry it through, get on the accelerator early, obviously drain the curves before the start finish line, open the DRS at the activation point, and you just kind of want to let the car drift over towards the middle of the track and towards the right hand side as you come through across the pit exit line. We are looking for a braking point that's about 80 meters before the corner, just as the crest starts to dip down towards turn 1. We're going to be shifting from 7th gear down into 1st gear, and you basically want to brake in a straight line as it's very, very easy to lock those front wheels. So pointing towards the outside of the left hand side of the track, we're going to shift all the way down into 1st gear. We're going to turn in, and we're aiming for the bollard on the inside. Our apex point is just off the curb on the inside here. You don't actually want to clip the bollard or run the curb on the inside. Instead, you just want to create a nice smooth flowing arc throughout the duration of the corner. Your apex speed should be about 60 miles per hour, which equates to 95 kilometers per hour. And as it dips down here, you want to slowly get back on the throttle, just balance it ever so slightly, and as we come out you're going to grab a relatively early 2nd gear, bring the car over to the right hand side of the track to open up turn 2. We're going to throw the car in, and you're basically just going to balance the throttle about 50-60% throughout the duration of the corner. Your apex speed should be on the inside curb just here at about 105 miles per hour, which equates to 170 kilometers per hour, and basically you shouldn't have really lifted off the accelerator completely. Instead, like I said, just balance it all the way through and just hold it at about the 50-60% mark. But as we continue through the corner and start unwinding the wheel and drift over to the right hand side of the track, that's when you get full throttle. Coming into turn 3 now, our braking point is roughly here. There's no real reference points as to when to start braking, it's more just kind of feel. And we're going to be shifting from 4th gear down into 2nd, and this is a relatively difficult corner. You actually really need to scrub off an awful lot of speed and basically just sacrifice the exit ready for the right hander that follows. So continuing to ride the brake then as we turn into the corner, we're looking for our apex point, which is just here on the inside curb with an apex speed of about 70 miles per hour, which equates to 110 kilometers per hour. As we continue through the corner, we're going to use the throttle ever so very slightly, just balancing it, and you kind of want to maintain about 70 miles per hour throughout the duration of the corner. And coming through the exit now, we're going to hang towards the middle of the track, try not to gain too much speed, and we're then going to transition into this right-hander. At this point you should be bringing the throttle back in, but it shouldn't be completely flat out, as the transition is actually quite awkward and can unsettle the rear end of the car and cause it to spin coming out the exit. But your apex point is just here on the inside curb, 90 miles per hour, which equates to 145 kilometers per hour. And as you come through the exit of the corner, you want to straighten up the wheel, balance and counter steer any oversteer that you actually have, and obviously get on the throttle as we now come down into turn 5. So we have a very short braking zone that starts at the end of the grass patching on the right hand side of the track there. It's literally just a short stab of the brake and a shift down from 6th gear down into 5th. We're going to throw the car in and carry as much speed as possible, but you're going to try and hold off going onto the throttle throughout the exit as the right hander immediately follows, and as does its braking point. So midway through the corner now, we're looking at our apex point just here on the inside curb. Your apex speed should be about 140 miles per hour, which equates to 225 kilometers per hour. And like I said, you want to resist jumping on the accelerator and instead just balance it ever so very slightly. So coming out through the corner now, you actually want to hold towards the middle of the track as well, and basically we're looking for our braking point, which pretty much starts as soon as you start straightening up the wheel. We're going to be braking from 5th gear down into 2nd. It's very important to get your braking done before the corner, as it's quite hard to actually get the car turned in and in towards the apex. So braking now quite heavily and shifting down through the gears. We're going to hang to the left hand side of the track and then throw the car in towards the inside curb. You're looking for a relatively late apex on the inside curb just here, with an apex speed of about 140 miles per hour, which equates to 225 kilometers per hour. And from this point onwards, you should be bringing the throttle back in. You should be balancing it at this point, but bringing it in quite heavily also as well, with about 30-40% throttle. And as we continue out through the exit, you're going to unwind the wheel, run the curb on the exit. You should be full throttle once you get up into 3rd gear, run that exit curb, and then continue down along the left hand side of the track, down into the hairpin of turn 7. So our braking point for this hairpin is just before the grey tiling on the left hand side there turns into a slightly darker grey toning. We're going to be braking from 6th gear down into 2nd, and we're going to try and use the camber of the hairpin to our advantage. So as we shift down the gears and brake, we're hanging to the left hand side of the track. We're then going to throw it in relatively late and actually trail brake as well. We're looking to try and get as close to the curb on the inside, but also you want to try and stay off it, and you want to try and keep that camber to your advantage. Your apex speed should be about 85 miles per hour, which equates to 135 kilometers per hour. And as you come out through the exit, you're going to get on the throttle relatively early and just balance it ever so slightly. You're going to unwind the wheel and let the car drift to the outside of the track. Run the curb on the exit, should be up in 3rd gear, and we're going to drain about 10-20% of the curves. Get to the right hand side of the track, you're then going to throw it left and across the curb in through turns 8 and then turns 9, same again, completely flat out through those 2 corners. You want to bring it back over to the right hand side of the track, ready for turn 10. So our braking point is roughly about 65 meters before the corner. We're going to be braking from 7th gear down into 4th gear, and you want to hang to the right hand side of the track, and as we come through the latter part of the braking zone, we're then going to throw it in and run the curb on the inside. So doing exactly that, keeping to the right hand side of the track, we're going to throw the car in and running the curb on the inside there. You don't want to take too much curb on the inside, as you want to try and keep all 4 wheels, or at least 2 wheels, sorry, within those white lines at all time. Our apex point is just here with an apex speed of 120 miles per hour, which equates to 195 kilometers per hour. And as you come out through the exit, you can get on the accelerator relatively aggressively and let the car drift over to the outside of the track, run the curb on the outside there. You want to bring it back over left, and then you basically just want to balance the throttle about 30% as we come into this turn 11. You don't need to brake or anything, you don't need to shift down either. Your apex point is probably midway just here, an apex speed of 125 miles per hour, which equates to 200 kilometers per hour. And as you come out through the exit, you want to get on the accelerator more and more aggressively, and then we're going to run completely flat out down this back straight here. You want to drain your curves down to about 50%, get your DRS open at the activation point. I missed it by a second or two there, and then we're going to bring the car right for this tricky chicane at the end of the lap here. So our braking point is about 80 meters before the corner. You're going to be braking from 7th gear all the way down into 1st, and you want to try and get the car slowed down and brake heavily and as late as possible for the chicane, as quite a lot of time can be made up here. So doing exactly that, we're going to shift down through the gears, and as we're still braking and shifting down, we're actually going to throw the car into the first apex. Your apex point is just on the red and white curbing here on the inside, the flat part of the curbing, not the large sausage shaped curb on the inside there. You want to avoid that large bump. But your apex speed should be about 70 miles per hour, which equates to 110 kilometers per hour. Hitting those bumps on the inside will bounce the car a lot more than you would like it to, and just give you no control. Coming into the second part now, we get a little bit of oversteer, but it's nothing too much to worry about. And again, we're going to clip the flat part of the curbing here with an apex speed of 65 miles per hour, which equates to 105 kilometers per hour. Again, avoid the large curbing on the inside there, as it will bounce the car and it will cost you invaluable traction out of the exit. So from this point onwards, we should be balancing the throttle and bringing it back in. Run the curb on the outside there, get up into 2nd and 3rd gear, hold off the curves as we come now down into the final corner. Our braking point is at the last Pirelli board on the left hand side of the track there, and you're basically just going to drop the car from 4th down into 2nd. And we're going to try and turn in as late as possible, and you want to try and hook up a relatively late apex just after the barrier starts on the inside there. So balancing it in through 2nd gear, your apex point should be literally just at the start of the barrier there. Apex speed of 95 miles per hour, which equates to 152 kilometers per hour. And as you come out through the exit, you want to get on the accelerator more aggressively, get the car to the outside of the track, unwind the wheel, carry as much speed as possible, and obviously drain the rest of your curves to the start finish line, and of course also get your DRS open at the activation point to bring it home. So that was the end of the breakdown, and we're now going to move on to the hot lap, where I am now actually going to shut up and let you guys listen to my throttle inputs and the engine sounds to try and get a real general sense of the speed. So that was a dry hot lap, and we're now actually going to move on to a wet one and talk you through the different braking points and possibly different lines that I take through this lap. So the final corner principle is exactly the same. Take as much speed as possible through it, try and get a good clean exit and drain as much curves before the start finish line, of course no DRS. As we come down towards turn 1, you want to drift the car over towards the middle of the track, and we're actually going to brake about 5 metres earlier than we did in the dry. Get that turn 1 apex hooked up quite nicely. Exactly the same principle for turn 2, maybe slightly less throttle coming through the corner. Grab an early 4th gear on the exit to prevent any wheel spin. Turn 3 is again the same, but I've got to miss the apex there. Turn 4 is quite smooth. Again, be very patient on the throttle, as it's very easy to spin those rear wheels coming out through the exit. So coming into turn 5 now, hooking that up relatively nicely and being very cautious and patient through turn 6. And getting on the accelerator on the exit there. We're going to hang to the left hand side of the track, coming down into turn 7. Our braking point is again about 5 metres earlier. Getting a relatively late apex there, hooking up the exit rather nicely though. And again, we're going to drain about 10, 15, maybe 20% of our curves. Turns 8 and 9, again completely flat out. Coming into turn 10 now, our braking point is actually pretty much dead on, exactly the same place it was before. And again, coming through turn 11, is relatively quick, don't have to brake or anything like that, just lift off the accelerator ever so slightly to about 30%, and obviously we've drained down to about 50% of the curves. And coming now into this rather tricky chicane, our braking point was about 10 metres before the dry braking zone, and again the same with the final corner that I've gone and missed the apex there on the inside, but the exit wasn't too bad, and we've gone and completed our lap and finish across the line. So we're going to move on to the setups now, where I basically just talk you through the two setups that I use for both the dry and the wet hot lap. So starting off with the dry, we had a 3-3 on aero, both front and rear. Our braking was a 4852, sorry, with a high-end standard. Our balance was a 5 on the front, 1 on the rear, and then our suspension ride heights were 1-1, and again a 5 and a 1 for spring stiffness. Those are the gear ratios that I was using in miles per hour, and of course the gear ratios in kilometers per hour, and of course finally the toe and also the camber at the end, again all the way to the left for the camber, too shy from the far left, and then the tight slight adjustment for the toe. So 4-4 wing angles for the wet lap then. Again, same braking as it was before, just a medium pressure instead of high. Same balance as it was in the dry with a 5-1. And I believe our suspension was exactly the same with a 1-1 and a 5-1 as well. Those are the gear ratios that I was using for the wet lap in miles per hour, and then again in kilometers per hour as well. And then finally the toe and camber settings are pretty much exactly the same as the dry lap, sorry. So that is going to conclude this Nurburgring episode for the In-Depth Track Guide series. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Please give it a rating. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and of course don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content in the future. I shall hopefully see you soon. Take care.